And even a pencil sharpener. Wow. And a Kumon eraser. If you guys ever know Kumon, like math.
If you've had kids and they have been struggling at math. Okay, this is going to be fun. It's going to be hands-on. It's going to be getting planned, getting ready. Simone, are you just about ready over there? All right. Oh yeah, speaking of noisemakers. Turn that off. And hello to some of you who have showed up online. That's awesome to see some people on our live web stream. Turn that.
I can't believe you know how to figure all that out.
Well, you know, do a couple of things. So, Simone, do you want to just give us an intro? So we can.
So, of what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah.
So, everything.
Come over here so you're in camp.
Everything we're going to go through today is really based off all the coaching that we had for 8 years. So, Nitsu, this is going to be familiar, right? Yeah. What we'll present today, or what we'll work on today, is going to be stuff that we've tweaked and changed over the years, and where it landed for us at the very end, and what we find works for us. So everybody's plan is going to be different. Everyone's schedule will be different, but I want you to actually work on these things as we go. So let's get started.
Yeah, the goal is going to be to create a working document, something that gives you, we always talk about business planning that your plan for 2020 starts in October of 2019, because real estate goes in these 90-day cycles. So everything that you do today, the actions that you take today will result in something usually around 90 days later. So if we're looking at starting January 2020 as being a great year, you can't just start January 2020, or else you're going to be right into April, right?
Right. So
the goal here today is to say, okay, what's our schedule going to be like? What's our plan going to be like? And you know the old saying, a dream is just what is it?
A dream is a dream until
without a plan.
There's no plan, or
you don't have a plan. It's just a dream. A wish. A wish. Yes.
Thank
dream
you.
Without a plan, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So we know that planning is really important. So if you just say, like I asked a lot of people when we were in Saskatchewan. I asked a lot of the agents there what their goal was for the rest of the year, or what their goal was for next year. I don't know, as many as I can get was usually the answer, right? So if you have a solid plan, it actually gives you some foundation, something to work towards. So usually the first thing we do is we do an annual recap. So what I'd like you to write down on your papers is, for some of you, pretty easy. Yeah, pretty easy.
This is Curtis.
Yeah. So, hi.
Hi, Curtis. Come on in. Welcome. Everyone, this is Curtis. Everyone else. There we go. Okay.
So we're working on a recap so that we can actually look at the past and see what we need to do going forward. And in a recap, I usually write down how many transactions I've done from January 1st up until now. If you know that number, write that down.
And if you don't know the number for certain, write approximately 5 or approximately 10 or approximately 20. But if you know your number solid, and if you have no clue, just put question mark. And if you've had 0 deals in the last year, just put 0, because I know some people are new. 2019. So year to date. Year to date. Yeah, 2019.
And then if you know the math, you can interpolate that into approximately how many deals you're going to do for the year. And then you would want to write that down.
Also, while you're doing that, feel free to get up and move and get coffee and water as you want. This is not like sit and listen. And if you need to use the washroom, it's right here. And it's actually, even though
very
it's the
quiet.
front, it's very quiet in there. So,
and the other part of this is it's meant to be interactive. So please, if you've got questions, just stop us and interrupt anytime. It's more of a workshop scenario. So if you've got your number or you have an idea of what you did last year, your goal should always be, if you're looking to increase production. Is there anybody not looking to increase production here? No? Okay, good. So everybody's looking to increase. Good. Your goal should be to increase about 20% every year. So you take that number for what you plan to do for this year, number of transactions, and just increase it by 20. If you haven't done any transactions the last 12 to 18 months, start with, I say a good goal is somewhere in the 1 to 2 transactions a month, depending on how aggressive you want to be, like 12 to 24. So some people would start with about 20 transactions as a good, starting base of a goal that you would like to hit.
And
2020. 20 and 20.
20 and 2020, that's not bad. And so anyone that's doing less than 12 deals in a year or less than 10 deals a year, whether they think they're full-time or not, I would say that they're more part-time. And I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but so you should really be, you're at minimum 1 deal a month. You have 30 days or 31 days to produce a deal, you should be able to do that, okay? And if not, we're gonna be working with you in 2020 to make sure that you do.
We're going to change your mindset so that you treat this like a real job and that you have a plan and that you can actually achieve this no problem. So Simone, you want to start? We'll hand these calendars out. So what Simone's got is, this is where we always started. And a lot of this comes from, of course, our coaching and training that we have with Mike, but it also comes from what we implemented. And Simone and I grew our business at least 20% every year for a number of years. And we did that by setting goals, creating a schedule, and following the schedule. So what Simone's just handed out is a blank calendar for October, November, and December. So if we say that we're trying to create something that will be a template going into 2020, this is a good time to start.
Oh wait, I just passed this up.
What's in there?
Not the year, I'm starting with this. Or you want the other one?
No, I'm saying that if you want to create a schedule for 2020, we're going to start with the 2019.
Okay, and then for people at home, do you want to just show them what we have here? So what I want you to do is share with your friends, but mark off Thanksgiving on here, which is what? Monday the 14th, right? October 14th, yep. And then if you, for yourself, if you know you're going to be out of town or on vacation where you're not going to be working, I want you to mark off those days. You can put an X through the date, meaning I'm not working. You could put a little X beside the number, however you want to note that it's a no work day. Thanksgiving is there. Some people work on Thanksgiving, so that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to work, but if you know that you've got family stuff going on. So your first step is to mark off every day that you know for certain you won't be working, okay? Maybe you have a doctor's appointment, maybe you're having surgery. Maybe you know the kids need something on a certain weekend, tournaments or whatever they do.
I'm also going to mention that any of the documents that you see today, if you'd like a copy, just send me an email afterwards and I'll get you a copy of everything document-wise.
In fact, if you could write down this email address simply, it's admin, A-D-M-I-N, at SimoneRousseau.com.
That'll be your way of getting copies of any.
That's your direct access to Priscilla. And she'll be the one that will actually send these to you. So Simone Rousseau, SimoneRousseau.u. In my purse. Way forward. So what you're going to do now, let's look at this. So you've got the days you know for sure you're not going to work. Now you can do this one of two ways. What I would do is I knew my schedule previous years was I would always take Sundays off. So I would commit, some days I'd work Sundays if I had a come list me or if it was a sure bet, slam dunk, 100% something, I would go. But I planned that I didn't work on Sundays. So you need to look at the schedule and you need to decide, you need 1 day off a week, or we have our old broker that used to tell us, work, what did he say? Work 10 days straight, take 4 days off. Work 10 days straight.
I think he was more like, it was 20 or 25 days on and then 4 days off.
Yeah, so he would kind of preach this momentum thing, like if you're in momentum, you might as well give her. For me, what were you gonna say?
It's very good. I mean, momentum, we can't start momentum killers.
Right.
Yeah,
Once
can
you
be.
are in, you know,
Yeah.
family mood, as you take Saturday off, Saturday afternoon off,
Yeah.
Saturday off, and Sundays next, you don't want to walk, and
Yeah.
Monday is so hard to get back into.
So the other thing Mike Ferry used to do, he used to take Thursdays off and Sundays off. Those were his 2 days. So if you have it in your head that you're gonna work every day because you want to achieve your goal, you're already setting yourself up for failure.
Realtors are the worst. What do? Call us anytime. Call me anytime. I'm available 24/7 for you, right? My clients, I'm always available. I tell my clients right up front, I'm not available on Sundays unless you need to write an offer, or if an offer comes in on your property, of course, I'm going to deal with it. But other than that, I'm off on Sundays. So I'm not going to show you houses. I'm not going to come over and visit with you for coffee.
Right.
Right?
So think about that for yourself, and you could even write notes on the side. You don't have to determine it today. But for me, what I would be doing was I would take my October schedule, and my schedule now is I'd be crossing off every Sunday. Personally, me, I would cross off every Saturday, because I also don't work Saturdays. And I'd put a halfway straight through Fridays, because I also take Friday afternoons off. So I know that this is just for me, and this is not your schedule, but for me, it's Monday to 2 o'clock on Friday. And that's my schedule. Now, so you need at least 1 day off a week. And then if you decide that you want to take 2, then you know that the other 5 days a week have to be completely productive.
But that being said, everybody's got a different way of doing things. So your schedule might be completely different. You may want to do 20 days on, 4 days off, and you turn your phone off and give it to somebody and go to the cabin or whatever. Whatever your schedule is, the idea is just to write out here what days you're not going to work.
Right.
And then you also want to take off, if there's holidays or long weekends, or you're planning on going for a trip, block those off. And the idea here is that we're doing these live on your calendar.
So go through November, like have these laid out in front of you, go through November, December. Like I know our kids get out of school on the 20th of December. So the chances of me actually doing a full day work on the 23rd and 24th is dreamy. So I would just declare days off. 26th, 27th, and 28th and 29th between Christmas, and not everyone celebrates Christmas, right? So, but those days between Christmas and New Year's, those are awesome days to do business. If you don't have anything going on big around that Christmas season, people do deals. They're in the shopping mode around Christmas time. It's a great time to, even the 24th, you may want to just do a few morning phone calls to clients. Hey, Merry Christmas, or season's greetings, or whatever you say. You'd be surprised how many deals are done. We always get this like happy Merry Christmas deal between Christmas and New Year's. And usually it's a pretty big one. And I kind of expect it now. I'd be shocked if we don't. If it doesn't happen.
There's always a deal somewhere in there.
Okay, so
now that you've got your days off blocked, you've got your holidays blocked off, the next step is to count how many working days you have. The goal here is to, when you're working and having a working day, you're actually working, so that you can justify the days that you have to work, because that's part of your plan and your schedule, and the days that you have off, you can justify those because you're working on your working days. Where most people, of course, it's just, I'm just trying to get work done every day. I don't know, right?
and I'd like to backtrack a bit. So I'm looking at October, and here's mine that I'm just working on. So I put all these X's, and then I thought to myself, oh gosh, I'm going away. I'm going to be actually out of town the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. So I look at that and go, oh, okay, now things are becoming more real. So what am I going to do? Well, okay, so when I get back from being away, I'm going to make the 6th a work day. I'm going to put a check mark back there, because I will be ready to get back to work. So I'm going to give up that one Sunday, and then this long weekend, if you look at this with Thanksgiving, well, that's much too long for me to be off work. So then maybe I'm going to now give myself a check mark and make that a work day. Right?
So how many days do you guys have on your next 3 months, like for October, November, December? How many days do you have of working days? Does anybody have that figured out?
So what I do is I
add up the number of days.
October, I have 18 work days. And this is how I do it. I kind of scratch it out and put my number. And then I'll do the same. Usually you're gonna fall anywhere between, well, 17 to 20, I would say.
So if anybody's got all the 3 months, the total number of days added up, let me know.
63.
63. Perfect.
58.
58. Nice. And then you want to figure out, in order to achieve your goal or reach whatever you want, how many transactions do you plan on doing October, November, and December? And then you can figure out how many days you have per transaction. How many working days do you have per transaction? 10. So it puts it into perspective that every working day, you know, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you should be writing a deal. You should be having a deal come in. You should have some transaction happening. You get a double end, that counts as 2, which is really nice. That sure speeds things up. The next step, as Simone counts away here, is, Mitzi, if you don't mind taking one and passing them down, we do the same trick now with our entire calendar for next year. So I block off what numbers I'm not gonna, like which days I'm not gonna work. I block off any vacations. If you've got generalized vacations, like I usually take a week off in September, I usually take a week off in May, whatever it is, just block off a random week in there.
The other great day to do a deal is New Year's Eve. I'm telling you, that happens all the time. So if you, I'm a big believer in manifesting things. And so when I put it out there, I know that it's gonna happen. Right, Mitsu?
Yes, it does.
It does. So if you tell yourself that you're not gonna have a deal between Christmas and New Year's, you're not gonna have a deal. If you tell yourself you will, something's gonna happen. There's gonna be some kind of money flowing in your account. So I got 55 days. So sorry, what did you get, Greg?
58.
Yeah. Curtis? Okay.
Too new.
Too new. Well, this is good information though to follow along. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you've already gone off to the 2020 calendar?
Yeah, so then you grab your 2020 calendar. That one's slightly different, but I've got one here. And what I did on here as well, and you can see at the bottom, I just found this on blankcalendar.com. You can pull off a calendar, you can print it big. We like to put this big on our wall, and we actually have a Post-it note sticky one, which we block off all of our holidays and, you know, kids' volleyball tournaments, whatever you've got in your life, you block those days off because you know you're not going to be working, right? I also took the liberty of finding all the Alberta holidays, and I put them in red. These are the stat holidays, so if you decide that you want to take long weekends, that's a good opportunity to do that.
So on that note,
Yes.
we've always had the mindset of if it's a long weekend for everyone else, it's not our long weekend. And once you just resolve that you work long weekends, again, it's a mindset thing. If you really need to be off because you have family and you have to be with, you know, the family, that's one thing. But if you're kind of free and you can set your own schedule, I'd say work long weekends.
The biggest challenge has been realtors who have a spouse
Right.
working a normal job, and they have certain days off and long weekends off, then you have to kind of coordinate with family, but
yeah.
We always just went anytime. So what our coach always told us is determine how many days you're going to be working for the entire year of 2020. So you kind of want to write these numbers down, block off all those dates that you're not going to be working, and you want to aim, let's see here.
I think it's like 247 days is what Mike would say.
Mhm.
If you get between 220 and 240 or 250, that would be our coach's definition of being a full-time real estate agent. I know when I used to do my annual plans, I would always hover around 200 days. So I'd be taking, you know, an extra, I don't know if anybody has spouses or people that work regular jobs. And if you actually crunch the numbers, and if you have 3 weeks vacation or 4 weeks vacation, right, it all varies. But between 220 and 247 is pretty full-time, okay?
And what I would say is that once you add up the number of days that you're going to be working for the year, based on you're taking your days off, your weeks off, whatever you're going to take off for the year, subtract 10% from that number. So usually people get into like 260, 270, for example, take 27 off, 10% off for the number of days that you're actually going to work through the year, because that accounts for the days that you're sick, the days that you're just mentally not there, you're flaking out. Hello, Mark, how are you? Find a spot. So take 10% off, and that'll kind of account for those extra, non-working days.
Yeah, it's the days that, when we all flake out and you just don't want to work. Though that's what it's for. So you don't have to beat yourself up because you were flaking out.
Right.
So, old-fashioned paper.
Old-fashioned paper.
And then Mark, if you can take one of those and pass it down. So the next thing that I'm passing out now is our annual business plan. I'll bring it up on the
So any
screen.
questions about the schedule?
Can I get another annual?
Yep, sorry.
There's extras right here.
So
So you're actually saying to work long weekends?
I'm saying to work, I mean, I would rather work a long weekend and then work 3 days for a long weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then I know I can replace it with 5 days off another time. Because the long weekend, the value is tremendous if you have your game head on, right?
So what
Super productive time, right?
Oh yeah, September is the best time to plan, and then October, November, you're set. The idea here, the notion is, again, not to start January 1st, but to start now so you have momentum. That you've already got a routine. Remember, we've heard these things about it takes about 90 days to really establish a habit. And if you can actually form a habit now and start these routines now, you'll actually be running. By the time January 1st comes, this is just normal and routine, and you're going. You're at full speed. This is like a locomotive. So the one that I just handed out now is just a business plan. It's got blanks where you can fill things out. So at the top, you write your name, and then you write 2020. And I've got this as a fillable PDF. If anybody wants the fillable portion, just let us know and we'll send you this.
Again, email Priscilla if you want this.
And then the next line under there says your transaction goal for 2020. Again, if you had a certain number of transactions, if you did 20 transactions last year, add 20% to it, you'll be at 24 transactions.
So just to clarify, so whenever Pablo says last year, he's talking about this current year.
Sure.
So if you think you're going to end with 20 deals this current year,
Based on your projection for this year.
and you'd like to have an increase, the most increase that's recommended is 20%. Unless you're going to do something absolutely crazy different and go full on, then maybe you might go for a 30% increase. But 20 is pretty solid. Okay.
So you put your transaction goal for 2020 is blank. So you're going to write 30 transactions, whatever the number is on the top. The next one is you're going to figure out your average commission check. I think everybody knows a pretty good average commission check of what they are selling in the market, what they're doing.
So does anyone know what their average check is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Shut it.
What, do you want to share?
It's about 6.
Okay,
Six?
about 6.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Mitsu? 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
0 a month.
0.
Right.
Okay, so
Transaction.
if yours is currently 0, use 6 as your average. Okay, we'll lean on others.
Do 6.
6 a month.
$6,000 per transaction.
6,000 per transaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll think you two up if you want to do
Oh,
It skipped you.
You're just too generous.
just to passing. There you go.
Okay, so then you take, so the second line down where it says income goal for 2020, you're at 2020. You take the number of transactions from your transaction goal, multiply it by your average.
And you can write your average check off onto the side. Like if you want to put your average check, write that number there so you know how you calculate it.
you'll really see by doing this exercise that by increasing your average check, it makes a big difference at the end, right? $1,000 times 20 deals is.
So one of the things I'll throw out there as a nugget is 7 and 3 is standard in Calgary for commissions, right? For listings, 7 and 3, 7 for standard, 3 in the balance. I encourage everyone to switch it to 7 and 3.5.
Well, I have a lot more on this thing, 7, 3.5.
7 and 3.5.
And
Did I say anything?
I want to say that if this ever gets out,
Oh,
we're not encouraging any price fixing or anything like that. Let's just say what we do.
yeah.
We're going to say what we do. We're not suggesting that we all collude into some sort of price fixing, but what we are saying is that what we've done successfully, we started with 7 and 4, and then the market crashed, and so now we're down to 7 and 3.5, and it's never been an issue. Like the odd time, what I love about this model is that the odd time where we have to reduce our commissions because we're competing against someone and they say, hey, somebody else is going to reduce their commissions, you know, this time I'll do it for 7 and 3. And now you're reducing your fees down to what others would be the standard.
So, great. I never say that. I say I'll take it down to 6 and 3.5.
Oh, no, what she says even better is, I'll take my commissions and I'll knock off $1,500, right? She'll take
Put
off
it at the
$1,000
number.
or $1,500 because that
I'll
sounds
give you
better than 0.5%.
$1,500 back from my side, and you don't touch the 3.5. Anyway, so that's a way to. It's not an issue. If you go in there strong as a strong listing agent and you rock the presentation, they're not going to question your fees.
Okay, so you've got your.
Sidetrack, sorry.
So you plug in your numbers into the first two, and the next one is going to be your 2019 recap. And this is going to be based on your projections and your forecast for what you did in 2019. I know we've got some newer agents here, so they may not have that. So we're going to plug in a number based on what your income was the year prior, okay? Or what you forecast your total revenue based on the number of transactions. Again, this is just looking back. And then, I love this one, put in your business expenses. And everybody says, well, I don't know what my business expenses are. You should, right? So this is a prompt. Now you have to go back and you have to look at your business expenses. What does it cost you to run for the year? Not including any salary that you pay yourself. Does anybody who's an active realtor right now pay themselves a salary, or do they just take out of their business as needed? Anybody with a salary? Salary? Anybody just take out of business as they need? Yeah. Okay. So however you do it, if you take a salary, don't include that in your expenses, and basically just figure out what your burn rate, what your cost is to run your business.
And this is a big, hairy topic that I really love talking about, this whole expense thing, because then this forces you to get into your own personal expenses as well. Because if you need to have this much income and you know your business expenses are that, right now I look at that, that's 160 grand left. Well, the government's going to take taxes. So you might be left with 110. And then, so Pablo and I, if we netted 110,000, we're making 55,000 a year. That's not very cool, right?
Yeah.
So the numbers you start to go, whoa, maybe I should go get a job, or maybe I should do more deals, or maybe I should increase my fees, or maybe I should, right, work
There.
more.
See, now we're doing better.
Oh, but what you had written there was more realistic.
Okay.
So, anyways, okay, so you need to know your business expenses.
You write down how many deals you closed in 2019, projected, right? And then you're going to write down the total number of listing appointments that you went on. Okay, if you don't have any, because you're just starting this is the first time, then just, you can put 0.
And what I want you to do though is start tracking how many listing appointments you're going on. Because you need to know your batting average, right? If you go on 10 and you're only taking 3, then again, we're going to need to be working on what you're doing when you show up to listing presentations. If you're hitting 80%, then yeah, that's pretty good.
So I got a question. How many people do multiple listing from multiple realtors presentations? presentation.
How many people
Multiple.
Like
Yeah,
sellers?
get second and third opinions kind of thing, or interview more than one agent? Depends on the type of leads that you're getting, I would say. So if you're dealing with only past client and sphere, it's pretty rare. Maybe 25% will say, oh, by the way, we're also interviewing other agents. If you're dealing with brand new leads or you're advertising and generating leads, it's going to be very high. Where they're, hey, I saw your advertising or I saw your postcard or whatever, and I'm interviewing a few agents. I'd like you to come and interview for the job listing.
And the other thing is if you follow, once we teach my listing process, if you follow the listing process, at the beginning, when you first talk to them, they're going to say, I'm going to interview 4 agents. And by the time you work this listing process that we'll teach you over the next months or whatever, by the time you're at the end, they're not going to be interviewing any other agents. So they say they're going to interview 4, and then before you show up at their house, you know it's you. And that's it.
Let's make that the next topic. How's that? Like the next gathering that we do like this will be all on the listing presentation. How Simone gets 92% of her listings, the paperwork, the script, everything that we use in order to take a lot of listings. Because we've taken over 100 listings in a year.
So you'll include because I watched your video, so you'll be including the paperwork that's in your actual folder.
Yep. The whole pre-listing package gets couriered or delivered to the client, fully filled out with my recommended price, with all my fees. And then there's circles where they have to initial, and there's X's where they have to sign. And I even encourage them over the phone, and if you like what you see, go ahead and initial and sign. And I've shown up with a fully signed listing contract ready. It works. It's magic. It's magic.
Yeah, I had the same experience once. The guy was had everything signed, like giving me back the documents. Like, is there anything you want me to do?
Yeah.
I said, you did what I'm expecting.
Yeah. What I do is just, let me check you didn't miss anything. Okay, I'm out of here. Okay.
Okay, so the next one we're going to put in, we said the total number of listings that you took last year or in this entire 2019, because we're doing a recap for 2019. And then how many of those sold? So did you have any that expired, that they just pulled off the market, that they rented out and decided not to give you anything? Any of that, then you'd put those as deals collapsed or listings collapsed. So let's just say that now I've got, and these are fictitious numbers, right? Total listings taken 35, listings sold 33. Obviously, if we did 40 closed deals, then we've got 7 buyer sales left. So you write down how many buyer sales you had.
So you see that, the math, right? 33 plus 7 is 40. So your buyer's sales would make up the difference. A lot of people might be more in the 50-50 on these numbers. So the 40 might be 20 listings sold and 20 buyer sales. Or you might be more weighted on the buyer sales. 75% buyer sales, 25%. And we want to switch that as well. Okay, we're going to give you more days off by having you not have to work with buyers.
So we're going to then input the average, this is number 8, average sales price. This is the average price of a home that you sold. If you did a double end, you get to put that twice. Average commission check, this we talked about earlier, is say $6,000. I'm going to go a little bit more into the 8,000. This should actually correspond with your income. So if you had 40 sales at $8,000, it should correspond with, I think it actually does, doesn't it? Oh no, income 460. So we're a little off. Let's call this 75. Okay, average number of hours that you worked each week. A lot of people wouldn't know this, so you may have to estimate. If you haven't done this in the past, you're gonna have to estimate.
And we're going to go through daily schedule.
We're gonna go through daily schedule afterwards. But let's just say that you worked 35 hours a week. And how many pending deals do you have? That would be, how do you define pending in this case?
Firm waiting to close.
Firm waiting to close.
That's how pending's not CS, because in the US, they have a long pending period, but in Canada, I mean, you've got 7 or 10 days, and I know we call that pending, but these are just pending to hit your bank, okay? Money pending to hit your bank.
Present inventory is the number of listings that you currently have. That's number 12. And then how many days did you work last year, or how many days do you think you had worked last year? If you don't know, you can leave it blank. Let's say that we worked 220 days. And the total number of hours prospected, if you're not tracking your numbers, you're not going to have these numbers, but we would track these numbers religiously. So every day, if you called for 2 hours or 3 hours, or spend time lead generating for 2 or 3 hours every day.
Or knocking, or open house, right? That's all hours prospected.
Yeah. Even just working online, like going on your Facebook and doing the Facebook ads, and actually like not commenting on other people's Facebook stuff, but if you're generating online leads, that's considered prospecting too. There's like 62 different ways of generating leads. I can show them all to you if you like, and you just pick which ones you like the best, right? So we're gonna say that there was 1,900 hours of prospecting, and the total number of contacts, again, if you were actually calculating and determining your numbers, you would know this. But let's say that we talked to 20,000 people. We're going to go to page 2.
So can you just backtrack? So can you pull that screen down? The bottom line here, it actually doesn't matter what you put in here, but you have to start tracking your numbers. If you don't know, if some of these you're like, huh? This is your job. This is what you do. You have to know your numbers. And then once you start getting used to tracking your numbers, and we can help you and share how we track our numbers, then these numbers will start clicking. And this will take about 6 months to start to click for you. So that's why if you started in the last quarter, then maybe by January, you're gonna have your feet under you for tracking.
I'm
Ready for
listening.
spring market.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, ready for the spring
right,
market.
spring
Oh my gosh,
market.
you'll be going full
Right,
steam.
that's the point, is to get us all teed up for February.
And what you want to do is, if you follow this plan and actually have a plan, you might have 5 or 10 or 20 listings by the time you hit the spring market. And then you're just dealing with offers, which is really nice. And you're not running around and working with many buyers, right? The goal at the end of the day, if you can, is to have more listing inventory and less working with buyers. At the beginning, though, you got to do everything you can, right? So I'm reading a really good, or listening to an audiobook right now every morning, and they were talking about the difference between amateurs and professionals. And, you know, this is really, what we're showing you here is this notion of going professional. If you want to actually become a professional agent, where you treat it as a business and you have a plan, I mean, companies do this every single year. You know that. I think we all know that. Large companies have business plans, they have projections, they have forecasts, they look at their numbers from last year. We have to do these things if we want to become professional. If you just want to kind of float through life as a realtor because you saw the HGTV shows and you like showing buyers and all that, that's amateur. And that will really only get you so far, and then you'll get frustrated, and then you'll come and see us and say, I need to increase my production.
Or I need a loan, because I have money in my bank.
Yeah.
Which I don't have money in my loan.
So now we look at,
Okay.
so now we plan for 2020. Okay, so page 2, part 2, you put 2020 production goals. And what's your income goal? What would you like to earn next year in real estate? And if you know what you're doing in 2019, add about 20%. If you say, look, I did 10 deals last year, but my goal is 40 next year, you know, I'm all for thinking big. I really am. I'm like the biggest big thinker there is. You've got to have some level of realism as well, please.
I do agree. As you guys know, what if you've written a lot of offers and need to refine some of the stuff we've talked about with buyers, things like that. So actually the offers, the numbers that you've written would be very close to the goal for next year. Is that?
I would take him in, like, I always go big on my goals. He's always like, Simone, come on, be realistic. I would take that in consideration for something.
It's like, you know, a lot of people, Greg and I both follow Elon Musk a lot, and that guy sets these crazy high production goals and never meets them. So the public's like, see, he's always failing. Look at him, he's failing.
That's me.
But quietly, he's like,
goal.
you know,
Never.
kicking ass, right? But you know, but he's not reaching his targets and goals. I don't think Simone's ever met a goal in her life.
Really?
No.
Because they're crazy high. She shoots for the moon, never gets there, but still does like 100 transactions. So it works out okay.
You know, so 1 year I set a goal of 150 transactions. This was back in the peak, and I think we landed at about 102.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't upset.
No.
Right?
No.
So yeah, but what I didn't do is I didn't spend like I was making 150 deals. I made sure our budget was realistic, that if we landed at 80 deals, we'd still be okay financially, right? And that's from just experience of not doing it that way. When you get burnt, right? Spending the money before it hits your bank, bad idea.
So if you're the kind of person who's a big dreamer and you like to set big, high BHAG goals, whatever, go ahead, set your goal at double, triple, whatever it is. And you know, quite honestly, if you're going from 5 or 10 deals and you want to get to 25, 30, you can absolutely do that if you actually establish a plan like this. That is not a crazy jump,
Yeah.
okay?
But if you're planning to do a certain number, you need to plan to spend the money to do that number. It's the common thing that businesses do. If I'm planning on doing 20 million in revenue, I have to have the staff and I have to put in the resources to do 20 million. This is where a lot of businesses fall down, is they budget, they put in the resources to do 20 million, but they don't make it. Now all these expenses are still there. And as a realtor, you're still gonna have expenses, even if you're aiming for a certain target. You should be spending the money to hit that target. Not
Yes.
spending the money if you hit the target.
I
So-
think there's tiers, right?
Yeah.
So like hiring assistant would, for me now, I would always hire before I needed them instead of after. So I'd hire more at 25 deals. I'd start looking for my assistant, even if my goal was 50. So I wouldn't start the year off with an assistant, right? So you kind of have to tier those expenses, especially in, you know, what we've experienced in Alberta with just getting pummeled and blindsided. Like how did we know it was going to happen in 2014, October? Probably like 5 years ago right now. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was right.
Real estate is one of the rare businesses where you can have almost no expenses and make a lot of money. Like very low expenses, right? So if you really look at what necessary expenses there are, definitely, well, even photos, you could go and take photos yourself. There's probably a sign on the lawn. There's some MLS and board fees and those kind of, you know, those fees. Everything else is optional, really. So hiring an assistant's optional. Advertising, marketing is all optional. It can be done without, right? And
I
there's-
would agree though with what Greg was saying though, because once you start to get, once your goal's 50 or 60 or 75, then yeah, you probably have more confidence that you'll achieve those goals. So then you do spend ahead in order to help propel yourself, right? It's chicken and egg.
I can tell you, when I had my first business, I sat down and analyzed my time, and I realized I was spending 55% of my time administering orders.
Yeah.
Right.
So I hired an assistant. Now that doubled the time I could spend on sales.
Yeah.
She got so busy, I had to hire another assistant.
Yeah.
Right.
Next thing you know, I got 80 people working for me.
Right.
You know, because I focused my time on what I was doing best. I hired other people to do all the other stuff.
And then it also puts the fire under you that you have to achieve because of course your staff always gets paid first, right? Before you. So then your feet to the fire.
So if we look back to page 1, where you saw the number of listings taken versus the total number of appointments versus listing taken, what I'd like you to write beside each one is the ratio. So if you took 35 listings, but you went on 50 appointments, write down the ratio there. That number?
So this would be 70% on this scenario.
Okay.
And then the other ratio that's important is how many listings you take and how many sell, because you need to know what you're sold. You're not taking listings to have a big inventory, you're taking them to sell them. So you need to know how many you take actually sell, and that way you can analyze, do I have a price problem? Maybe I'm not taking contracts long enough given the economy. Maybe I'm not going after price reductions as aggressively as I should, right?
You guys always shoot for 6 months?
Yeah, I've even taken a year, so depending,
Price. It's a big house, a high price, expensive house you get in here.
yeah, it depends on what the motivation is of the seller, and how sharply I think it's priced.
Right.
I don't take anything less
You
than
give
6
yourself at
months.
least double what you think it's gonna take to sell.
Yeah, I don't, like, they say 3-month listing.
Now it's like,
Yeah.
some people are like, oh, the minimum's 2 months. And you
Yeah.
go, wow.
Yeah.
You gotta get there.
I'm not your girl then.
Yeah.
You know?
Otherwise, I mean, they need to reduce the price.
Yeah.
But that way, we have said.
Well, you could have a discussion and
Say
say,
2 months, we gotta be aggressively priced.
like, if you only give me 2 months, like, you're gonna have to price your house super aggressively to get it gone in 2 months. If you want me to get maximum value for your house, you gotta give me more time.
Yeah. I would, average days in the market is what, 55 days? I'd never take a 2-month listing, never. I mean, it doesn't give me a chance to sell it. Do you want to sell it, or am I just gonna spend $3,500, right, to get your listing live?
Okay, back to page 2, so we can get through
Yeah,
this.
sorry.
We got some good stuff coming, so. So your listing appointment goal is gonna be based on a similar ratio from what you had the prior year, right? So if you had, back here, I had 35 listings taken, and I did 40 deals total, you're gonna have a similar ratio there. So my listings taken might be 40 or 45, and my listing appointment goal is gonna be based on the same ratio from the first page.
Or a little better, because your ratio should be going up.
Well, let's just base it on the same, and if our ratios go up, we get even more.
Right.
Again, I like to shoot low, and she shoots high. So listing appointments, maybe we're gonna take 55 listing appointments, and we're gonna give ourselves the grace that we're gonna lose 10 of those to other agents, like Simone. Listing sold goal, 45, we're gonna give ourselves, you know, a few that might fall off. And so our buyer sales goal is gonna be 9. So basically you're just working through the same numbers based on your numbers. So everybody's gonna be a little bit different here. Now, if you are just starting out, it's a good idea to start putting numbers in here. If you want some basic numbers, let's put some basic numbers in here. Let's say that your income for the first year in real estate, you wanna make 120,000. Wouldn't that be nice? Not bad. So that's gonna be 12 deals at 10.
Say 15?
It'd be about 18.
17
That's
transactions.
a lot for year 1, right?
Yeah.
But that's good.
So our listing appointments, if we're gonna get, well, we always have a higher listing sold to buyer sales ratio, but let's say first year in
Yeah.
business, you're gonna be almost 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree? Like 50-50 buyer sales,
Maybe
listing
even
sold?
more weighted on buyers.
More buyers?
More buyers.
Like
Okay.
75, 25?
60-40?
Yeah, 60-40 is generous, I'd say.
Wow.
Right?
We're gonna work on that, aren't we?
70-30.
70-30 buyers, okay, so we're not gonna have to take too many listings to do this then. If we're gonna do 17, and we're gonna go 0.25, or 70-30, 60-40?
Well, he said 30, we go what, 6 listings then?
Okay,
Just
so
whatever.
we're gonna sell 6 listings, right? Listings sold, we're gonna put 6. And so if we're taking approximately 50% of our listings year 1,
Yeah.
we're gonna need to go on 12. And we're gonna take,
You're probably gonna have to take 8.
we're gonna have to take more because some are not gonna sell.
Yeah.
We're gonna take 14,
And maybe
we're
9.
gonna take 7.
Yeah.
One of them is not gonna sell. And
That's-
then, is that right? 6 and 9, 17, there. So those are our numbers, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay.
The thing I keep looking here as we go through this again is just, you look at, for me, listings, right? Why would you ever take a listing that's overpriced, right? Unless you know for certain you can get them down on price and get it sold, it's a complete waste of time. Walk away from it. And then go in after it expires, right? Keep your eye on it. Set up a little search for yourself for that address and matrix so that when it expires, you know, and then go get it at the right price the second round. Be willing to walk away.
How many hours a day, or how many hours a week would a normal job, like if you worked as a
37 and a half.
37 to 40.
Or 40.
37 and a half to 40, right? How many hours a week does a realtor work?
60.
30.
Somewhere between 2 and 60, and those are both great answers, right? The key word is work, right? I knew you were on the same page there. So the idea here is normal people in normal jobs work around 40 hours a week. There's no reason why we can't do what we want to do within about 40 hours a week.
Realistically, they go to work for 40 hours.
Yes.
but they probably didn't.
Yeah,
That's true.
that's true.
Let's just say that we're gonna try and work about
There's a
40 hours.
huge difference between
Yeah.
work and productivity.
That's true.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're working at work, they're not working. They're not doing anything.
We're also typically 5 days a week, or sorry, 6 days a week, I should say. So goal number of days work, this is input right from the calendar, the annual calendar, when you cross off all the days that you're not gonna work, and then you subtract that 10%, so maybe we've got 220 or 230 or 250 days, whatever it is, that you're gonna work out of 365. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 360 is the turning, yeah. And then your prospecting goals. So prospecting, for anybody who hasn't been prospecting, I always say this is like being a police officer. Everybody wants to be a police officer so that they can run around and catch bad guys and give tickets out and do all that, where most of their time is spent doing things that they didn't actually think were part of their job description, like administration and paperwork, training, learning sessions, all that kind of stuff. So as realtors, we always get into the business, I think, with this notion of we're going to be at listing appointments, driving buyers around and writing offers and negotiating on the phone, where the reality is if we want to grow to, remember I was telling about going pro, amateur to pro, the pros all do lead generation of some sort. If you're Justin Haver, for example, you spend $80,000 a month on lead gen and you don't have to be on the phone all day. I don't know anybody in this room, including myself, who's going to spend 80 grand a month on any kind of online lead generation and marketing platform like that. So for us getting into real estate, we didn't have money. Like we were broke. There was going to be no marketing or no advertising, I should say. Marketing, we spent a little bit extra money on business cards and our pamphlets and materials because we felt that was the quality that we were giving to people. But we did it all by talking to people and what free ways could we get business. So we focused on talking to as many different people as we possibly could every single day and tracking those numbers. I'm not going to get into the whole ways that you can lead gen, but telephone prospecting, door knocking,
Online.
open houses, like long open houses. Greg was talking about doing a 24-hour open house somewhere or longer.
Perpetual open house.
Perpetual.
Well, I think the
It's
record-
my house. Just come and knock on the
Well, the
door.
record is 2 days and 8 hours, which, if you did like a 3-day weekend, that would be that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and I mean, we could debate that too, because I think, well, I'd rather just do a 1 hour open house and get the quality. Because you do the
Well, the
big
idea behind this is that you kind of do it
self-promotion.
as a self-promoting, you try and get news media attention, stuff like that.
Oh,
You say,
yeah.
I'm gonna stay here and sell this client's house until it's sold.
Oh my God. And do they live there too, or no?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's vacant. Yeah. Okay,
So here's some basic numbers for you, okay? If you're starting out, and again, everybody's going to differ a little bit here. So all I did here is I said I'm going to work 220 days a year, actual work. And in each of those days, I'm going to spend 3 hours of concentrated lead generation time, with my goal to be to contact or talk to 20 people every day. That might be just talking to sphere of influence. It might be talking to neighbors on the street. And I watched a great video from Ryan Serhant. Did anybody know him from New York, right? Ryan's $1 million guy, whatever. And I watched how he got started. And he had no money again, simple, but it is a lot simpler than we make it in real estate. We get into these complicated. All he did is he went Manhattan, he was renting a little studio apartment, walked down, got his suit on, as Ryan does, and he goes out on the street and says, "Hi, my name's Ryan, I'm a realtor. Do you need to buy or sell a house?"
Nope.
No, okay, thanks. And he just went to the next person. He did that for months on end, just talking to random people. My name's Ryan Surinam, helping people find a buyer, seller, or lease a home. Are you guys looking to buy or sell a home? No, get out of my way. F you, it's New York, right? People are pissed off. He says, I got rejection out of the wazoo, right? But it was just that notion of repeatedly talking to people. And then finally one day he's in Starbucks, and this is part of the story, but he's in Starbucks, and in front of him is this lady, and she's on the phone, and she's talking something that sounded like, we've all heard this, right? Somebody's talking about, yeah, I know, I need to get out of my place, I need to find something bigger, and so blah, blah, blah. He's like, right? Hey, my name is Ryan Serhan, and I help people find bigger properties. I heard you're looking for a bigger property. Is that what you need? She's like, yeah, but I'm just getting my Starbucks. He says, well, can we set an appointment? Actually, I've got this great little new loft listing that came up a couple days ago in the building next to me. Do you want to come and have a look at it? She's like, what size is it? Well, it's this much, and it's $2 million or whatever. She's like, yeah, I'd like to go and have a look at it. So he sets an appointment. They go and look at it. Of course, that one didn't work. He followed up with her. Finally, she phoned him up, said, I'm getting a divorce. And her husband was like the CEO of Google or something crazy like that, but she needed to buy a $20 million apartment. And he helped her buy a $20 million appointment. That was his first real lead, It doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. So prospecting, whatever it is, you set a goal. Okay, but it has to be measurable. If your goal in prospecting is just, I'm going to just try and get on the phone, maybe talk to a few people every day, that's just loose and that's amateur. So professional will say, I need 20 every day. Right?
And what we did as well, and I'd encourage you to do this, is back to the schedule, is determine all the open houses that you're going to do already for the whole year. I'm going to sit on this Sunday, that Saturday, this Sunday, that Saturday. Set a plan. Once you commit to it, you're more likely to, instead of going Wednesday, I wonder if I should do an open house. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Oh, where should I go? I don't know. If it's in your schedule, then you have to find an address to go and host. Okay? So you can be scheduling everything. And the other thing I want to say, sometimes people get paralyzed by the numbers or having to put in numbers. These numbers can change. So you can do a quarterly review and change your numbers. You can do a halfway through the year review and change your numbers.
So the summary at the bottom, Simone, when it says listings/appointments to listings taken.
That's your ratio.
Is that your ratio?
Yeah.
So you say 60%?
Yeah.
So you want to take 60% of the listing appointments that you go on if you're starting out, at least. And we need to work on getting it to 80 and up. Yeah. And Simone's listing presentation and how she does the whole thing, it will get you there. It'll take you from 50 to 80 overnight.
Can we copy it like word for word?
Yeah.
Change like instead of Simone, maybe
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark Rousseau.
I've already been working.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can, so that whole listing package, you can just take it all.
Have a sample.
You have a sample?
Oh, there you go. And then, so again, your ratios here, buyer sales divided by the listings sold. So that we said was about 50%. Prospecting per day, we need 3 hours. Contacts per hour, we're gonna make 20 contacts total. So what are we at? That's 7 contacts an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
And those numbers, again, contacts, the definition we were taught was speaking or communicating with a decision-making adult. So if you happen to call someone and they say hello and they're a decision-making adult and they hang up on you, that's a contact. Okay, so you don't need to have a long conversation. You're trying to talk to warm bodies that have the ability to make a decision.
If you're walking through downtown on Stevens Avenue, talking to people, and you say, "Hey, my name's Pablo, and I'm wondering if you want to buy a house," and they say, "F off."
That's a
That's
contact.
a contact. Okay.
And what you'll find is that eventually you're going to know how many contacts you have to make versus how many appointments you get versus how many listings you take versus how many sell. And then you'll know that if I just talk to 20 people, I'm going to get a sale. Like, it just works. It's all numbers. It's simply numbers.
That be a phone call or personal
Anything, any contacts, right? So whether you're calling, cold calling, so I go to my highest quality calls. If I'm going to spend time on the phone, I'm calling the highest quality, and for us, it's our past clients. So if I'm going to spend an hour dialing and calling people, it's going to be my past clients. I didn't do a lot of cold calling necessarily.
So this is, now the next part of this is part 5, which is the challenges and solutions. This is your homework, is to write out what are the challenges I have right now and what's the solution.
So can we just come up with a couple right now? So for the, if you looked yourself in 2020, what are some of the challenges that we have, that you see? Like for yourself personally? What? KV course, so learning new technology. Okay, so there's the challenge, learning new technology.
And then you write out what is the solution to the challenge. And you write this is your annual goal, right? So you want to say, my challenge is KV Core, my solution is going to be blank. And you write out the solution. Okay? I remember like one of mine was, my challenge was, for example, I don't wake up early enough and I don't have a consistent schedule. So the solution, and so the solution is going to be, I'm going to commit to waking up at this and being in the office or being at my desk by a certain time every day to start work, right? So you write out what your challenges are, and then you write out the solutions. These are the biggest obstacles, the biggest things that are challenging or stopping you from achieving your goal for 2020.
And so you have to look in your personal life as well. So for me, it was driving the kids to and from school. That was a big block for me to be able to achieve my goals. So the solution was get them bus passes and speak to them the night before, so everybody was on the same page that mom's not your Uber driver. Okay, so that was just an example.
The funny part about this, again, we did this every single year. We went through this. We spent an entire day going through our business planning every year. And at the end, it stops on this sheet. It says challenge number 5, solution number 5. And on my sheet, there's a couple of blanks here. And we had a whole other page because we have a lot of challenges. Like, I think maybe the higher performing you are, the more challenges you see in your business and in your life. Where, say, a lower producer would probably say, you know, I'm pretty good, everything's fine, right? Like, we identified a lot of challenges and we wrote out a lot of solutions, and that just identified for us, I think, what we needed to focus on for the year.
Yeah, like, you know, time management would be a challenge. Organization, not having the support from maybe a spouse. Like, a lot of people have that, or, you know, someone in their house, maybe they've got someone yipping at them.
Or they're
taking care of parents.
Their parents or family members are like, oh, you're around all day, you can help me move furniture.
I got that all the time. My mom would call me, oh, what are you doing today?
Her parents would just stop by because they were tired, so they'd stop by midday and want to have a cocktail at the house, and then everything stops, right? I remember.
Distractions, I think, for most people is their kids.
Yeah,
I know this from my experience, and I used to say, look, if my door is closed, you cannot come in, dial 911 if you need it, and don't open my door.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I remember that you had, because we said, okay, we really want to start making our 20 contacts a day, or 30 or 40, or whatever the number was. But Simone would say, I don't have any phone numbers. I don't know who to call. I need to have the numbers. I need to have the things in front of me every day, because what happened is that you would start your prospecting time and go, okay, who do I call? Okay, and you spend 3 hours figuring out some kind of system or program to get you numbers, and you got nothing by the end of the day. So we had to write out the solution and create the solution.
So let me ask you a question. Would it be better to call 20 people a day or spend $250 on making it rain and get people that are actually contacting you?
Both.
No, calling people.
I'd call people.
Calling people still works really, really well, but it's see, making it rain or any kind of online lead program that just sells you or gives you leads, it's more, you get instant gratification. You put out the money and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, whoop, oh, I'm getting leads. Hey, I'm getting leads, and everything's good. And then by the end of the month, you realize you've been going through leads and you've got one buyer that they still haven't bought because you've been driving them around. And you're like, okay, that was tough, but hey, next week, next month, and then you do it again and you realize it's a long, slow road just like everything else.
Well, you know what? When I used to have my business, I found the best place to get leads from was from my existing customers.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, you know, like, I'm talking to customers, like, everything's okay with your transaction, everything's working for you, everything's working great. Hey, do you know anyone else who could use my services? Because 100%. I really would like some more business. Yeah. And they go, hey, keep that in mind. And next thing you know, some other guy called me and said, yeah, so-and-so sent me over. It's really good. You know, it's like, leverage off your success, get them to feed you more active leads.
leads.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want you to track is your sources. So you need to know how many deals did you get from an open house in a year? How many past client deals?
How many came
How
from
many
online?
online leads?
So when you call your past clients, do you ask them, do you know anyone else that's gonna be moving soon?
100%.
Yeah, the script, right?
That's
So-
what we're after.
Yeah, so it's, we just, ring.
Hello?
Hi, Pablo, it's Simone calling, how are you?
Oh, hey, Simone, good, how are you?
Good, so this is a business call, do you have a quick minute?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Awesome, so you know, the real estate industry's been a little bit down, and right now I'm looking for people that are looking to sell homes or buy homes. Do you know anybody right now?
Geez, I can't think of anybody right now.
No? So anybody in your church, your soccer team, your
Well, I don't
kids'
go to
camps?
church, but,
Well, you should.
there was somebody in my volleyball, my kids' volleyball, she was kind of talking about it. I don't know if she's got a realtor or not, though.
Oh, awesome, well, would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Would you mind just contacting them, and if I were to call you next week, do you think maybe you could ask them if I could contact them directly?
Absolutely, yeah, I'll find out next week when I'm at volleyball.
Awesome, and how about you? When do you plan on moving?
Well, we've been talking about it, but I think the market might be a little weak to sell.
Yeah, we need to meet, okay, that's it.
See,
So,
that's
same
how it
thing
works.
over and over again.
Repetitive.
And then I would just say to him, and how are your kids doing? At the end of the call, not at the beginning of the call.
It's not a
Right.
social call, it's a business call.
Yeah, so get the business out of the way, and then talk about the kids. If you talk about the kids first, it feels yucky to go into business second. Okay, so
And we
get the
would
business out.
do 4 calls a year to past clients. And 2 of those would be like this. 2 of those calls would be just a personal call. So no business, right? So 2 calls would just be, just wanted to say hi, remind you I'm still in real estate, of course, but hey, I just wanted to see how you're doing, see how everything's going, and that's it.
Yeah, past clients, so 76% of our business is past clients, and that would be 2018 numbers. Now we're probably up to 90%. So we've just if you call your past clients 4 times a year, you're gonna have business forever.
So back to the schedules and everything. So talk about going pro again. If you want to think professional, like you're a professional agent and you've got goals and you're planning, every single month, before the beginning of the month, I put in my calendar, we have to have a business planning meeting every single month. We write out, so this is a good opportunity to start for October. So October's coming up. And you just fill this out. So at the top, it says month of October 2020.
Or 2019.
Whatever, yeah. Oh, wait, 2019, sorry. Your name, and then your 2019 income goal. So you remind yourself of what your annual goal is, number of deals that you want to get for the whole year. How many have you currently closed for the year?
Close meaning the money's in your bank.
And how many do you have pending, waiting to close?
Waiting to close. Okay.
So-
Or CS, because it's rare that, well, it's kind of rare to see us.
You'll see I got a 0 in there because it's a calculating field right now, but so how many deals do you have left? You just take your number of deals for the year, subtract your closed and pending, and that says how many you have left to do for the year, right? And then this is where you set out your intention for the month. Is your intention to be an amateur or is it to be a professional? If it's to be a professional, you write how many hours am I going to be prospecting? How many hours?
Days.
How many days, sorry, at the first.
Sorry, that's
How many
days.
days? This is the first one?
Yeah.
And then, so,
So say it's 20 days in the month, or 18 days that you're gonna
Yeah.
prospect. So these are the days you're actually gonna prospect.
so
If
you can write down the number right from the calendar that we did earlier today for October.
And then how many hours are you gonna prospect each day?
And nobody likes the prospect word for some reason, but call it lead gen,
Or-
whatever you want to call it.
Call it having conversations.
Call it making money.
Yeah, call it make your money. Money time.
And
Sounds
how
a lot
many,
better, doesn't it?
how many people are you going to talk to every day? So you put that in there. And then you say, how many listings am I going to take this month? Are there any that you know for sure? You've got like such and such. They've already told me that they're going to list and they're going to list in the next week. They're just getting their home ready. So you've got one kind of in the bag already. And then maybe you've got 2 others that you think you'll get in that month. So we're going to say we're going to list. We're going to go to 3 appointments. And we're really confident this month. So we're going to write down, we're going to take 3 of those
Boom.
listings, right? how many listings are we gonna sell this month? Well, I've got 3 listings right now. I know one of them, I'm supposed to get an offer here very soon, so that one should sell in that month, and then I'm gonna sell another one of my listings next month. So I'm gonna write down 2 listings sold for the next month. And I've got 1 buyer for sure that's gonna buy a house. So I've got 3 closed transactions for that month. And what does that mean for me income-wise? So
Your average is
my
6.
average commission is 6, or I think I had 7,000 for my last, right? So that would be $21,000 of income for that month. That's pretty good. Now on the right here, we say burn rate. Burn rate, again, as part of the being professional, you should know what it costs you to operate your business and your life. So your burn rate, which our coach called it the monthly net, it's the amount that you need every month to survive. So if it costs you, say $13,000 per month to operate your business and your life, then you know that if you earn $21,000, it's going to be a good month. Like that'll be a good income month for you. And it kind of gets you a little excited maybe.
And the other thing you might want to consider here in the burn rate, so if you have a spouse or a partner and they take on some of the household expenses, so you're really wanting to know how much are you responsible for? And you know, maybe like with us, it was all or nothing for us, right? So we knew that anything we generated had to pay for us for our living. So this burn rate might come down a bit if you have someone else contributing financially to your life.
It's also a good idea to do a recap, if you can, of the last month. So as you're going through your September.
So this recap now is for October. So once you finish October, your recap's gonna go there.
Okay.
Yeah. Your actuals.
You're right.
Is there a way to get this since Jeff, it's all editable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Years will just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You missed it at the beginning, but all of these, if you need a copy of anything, just email us afterwards or email admin. Priscilla will send you a link to all of these.
Yeah. And then you can manipulate this. This is, the way you'll get it is fillable as it looks, but you can go in and you can edit it as well.
When you guys calculate your income earned, is that obviously, you know, you own 100%, but like at the start of the year, let's say when you're still paying your 20, you know, you're deducting that?
This is the amount that hits our bank. Yeah. So this is the amount, and what I do is I include the total amount on the EFT on this number, and then I know I have a tax account, right? So I have my GST account, and I move the money, like I just moved money before we came here. I'm moving money all the time to the different accounts. Get it out of there.
Okay, COI added to database. This is your center of influence or sphere of influence. These are, I've got a whole list if you ever want to kind of a brainstorming list, but this is your hairdresser, your accountant, your bookkeeper, your
So where are you right now?
COI
Oh,
added
yes,
to
right.
database.
Yeah.
So your goal is that every month you should be trying to add somebody new to your database. Okay, add new sphere of influence to your database.
And this takes us back to who we would want to call first, right? Is your past clients and center of influence or sphere of influence. So if you keep adding to that golden database, then you don't have to do
Mortgage broker, home inspector, there's lots of different people that you can use here.
Yeah.
So let's just say that every month I'm going to want to try and contact, as part of my prospecting, I'm not just going to be calling cold leads and all that. I'm going to call 5 people that I know or that I work with or that I have done business with. And even if they don't know you by first name, you want to get that report. I always made it a goal to say, once a week, I'm going to try and go for lunch with the sphere of influence. That was how I added an extra sphere of influence. So I'd call up I did call up my hairdresser once, and I was like, hey, you know, I come in, I get my hair cut, and then that's it. Can I take you for lunch? And I want to talk to you about real estate. Sure, right? Of course, everybody's got
anyone you pay money to should be in your database as well.
Yep.
Do you do that with your lawyers?
Yeah.
Yep.
I always take my hair guy and stack of cards and put them on the stand.
Yeah.
So then they're there all the time and his clients, oh yeah, here, look at this guy.
And your lawyers now, for sure, now that you're with EXP, right? Your lawyers now can actually provide you with referrals.
Is that right?
So not just buyers and sellers, right? Because they have a database of other agents that they do business with that may also enjoy what you're
Or what's this referral to business?
like your lawyers. So we just went for lunch with our lawyer that we refer our clients to, or one of them. And we talked to them about what's been going on in our business. And then they said, oh, well, you know, so-and-so agent may also enjoy that, all those things you guys are enjoying. Right? So then
we
they
get
provide.
to price reduction. So I said active listings, I just wrote for an example, we have 3 active listings, and you have to set a goal for how many price reductions you're gonna get, right? Keep in mind that if you have 3 active listings, but you're planning on taking 3 other listings, you might end up with 6 active listings by the end of the year, or at the end of the month if you don't sell any. But I did say that we were gonna sell 2. So we have to put in some plans for getting some price reductions. Also, I believe in this market that you should be reducing about every 2 weeks. So not necessarily waiting a full month.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna write a number in here. We're gonna go for 5.
For me, this is where a lot of our money was made,
Oh.
is the price reductions and having a clear strategy. So what we do here now is we write the names of all the sellers so sometimes I carry 20 listings, right? So I put every seller that I know that I have to talk to about price during that month. Well, guess what? It's everybody. It's always everybody. So I put in all of their names, and then as I talk to them about price, I either cross them off, and then I know either I got the price reduction, or for sure when I do November, they're gonna be at the top of my list.
So it could be names or addresses, and you want to write out, who am I gonna go and get price reductions from this month?
Yeah.
And yeah, you really worked this list hard.
Yeah, if you're talking to them every week, which you should be, you have to. I mean, they've hired you to sell their house. They want to sell their house. So every week you should be talking to them and having a conversation about where you're at, right? And then during that conversation, either they are going to adjust the price or they're going to agree to adjust the price the following week. And that's the conversation I just kept having with them. If they're not really keen on selling their house, then I'll just release them from the contract.
So neighbor like that, they put on the market for a year.
Yeah,
And
So-
the price is a couple of grand less than what it started.
right. So I would just give that one back.
No, I don't understand why they kept it.
We hold on because there's that glimmer of hope that maybe some
Well, 5-10 years inflation will be there.
Right, exactly.
And the neighbor had his house on the market, he arranged for $1,050,000. Like, you're crazy. You're never gonna get that. He had it on the market for over 2 years. He ended up in a situation with multiple offers and got $50,000 over ask.
So that would just not be a listing I'd be interested in, like someone else can
When
have
you have
that.
that, it clutters your mind and it occupies a lot of time where you could be looking for someone who's actually motivated to sell.
Well, the other time, January can't afford to sell.
Right,
Yeah.
So that's something that you can always go to the bank.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Get
you'll
them
have that
work.
discussion with the
My
bank.
neighbor looks like that.
Yeah. So,
So you gotta work with them, right? So, but again, I wouldn't take that listing unless I knew the bank was gonna work with them or there was
Yeah,
options,
yes.
right? Make sure our fees are covered, make sure the buyer's agent's fees are covered, or else it comes out of
Well,
your
like I see
pocket.
this post in the Realtor forum or whatever, and they got this client and no credit, and they have no deposits, like, move on.
Right.
Like, these people are not gonna do anything.
So when you're not prospecting and getting to know new clients that need to do business, then you will hang on to those people. So if you're not doing your job every day and getting new contacts and new potential leads, then you will hang on. Okay, so this one, don't overlook the price reductions. That should be a weekly thing that you're doing, is planting the seed with your sellers every week that, oh, you don't agree this week to reduce to blank. Okay, so next week when I call you on Monday at 1 o'clock, because they know what day I'm calling, I call the same day. Monday morning after they got beat up over the weekend because they didn't get an offer, I call them in the morning and then I talk to them about price. So what do you think we should do? I don't know, what do you think? I think we need to go down at least 20,000. Are you ready to go and do that today? Oh gosh, I don't know. They'll either say yes, or they'll say, can we give it one more week? So, well, it's already proven that we're not at the right price. One more week. Okay, great, one more week. And then next week, we're gonna reduce, right? Right, great. So the next week, I just phone them up, say, remember last week we said we're gonna do, we're gonna do it. So,
So here's the next nugget of information right here, this section where you put your leads. So not only do you write out what leads you currently have that you could get a listing or a buyer sale from, you put the number associated with the amount of potential commission that that lead could lead to, right? Approximately, because if they're buying in the range of 7 to 725 or 750, just pick a number and put it an approximate amount and total it on the bottom right. So for this month coming up, we've got approximately 27,400 worth of leads. And if you have no leads, then you're going to have to get some leads. If you have way too many leads here that could lead to hundreds of thousands of dollars, you need to figure out if they're actually motivated and if they're actually leads.
and this actually is kind of an error because I asked Pablo to add in 21 leads. You should really only have like 5 solid leads would be gold. Even doing 100 deals a year, if you had 5 qualified leads, you can probably sell them all in a week. And then because you're continuing to prospect all the time, you'll have another new 5 for the next week. So you could be doing 20 deals a month, but only have 5 real leads.
I'd say just as a generalization, if you have 5 qualified motivated leads, multiply that by 10, that's the number of deals you should be doing a year. If you have 10 motivated qualified leads at any given time, like every month, if you see you've got actually 10, you should be doing about 100 deals a year. The problem is, and Cheryl and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, is people's definition of a lead is anybody who gave me their number. And then you start like adding in all these hundreds of leads in there and you're cluttering your mind. If you're only listing 2 homes a month, how many leads did you actually have? Right? You had probably 2, 3, 4 leads, and you're going to take 2 and maybe list those, right? So you have to really start to define, and I'm not going to get into the whole definition of lead and all of that side because we've got lots of these that we can do, and I need context for those. But let's just say that the average person, I know I never, even at the peak, I could never work with more than 10 leads at any given time. If I had 10 leads, I was running my butt off. Like that was for me a nightmare.
As a buyer's agent.
As a buyer's agent, and any more than.
And even as a listing agent, I mean, once I got over 5 to 8,
Yeah.
I'd lose connectivity to them.
So 5 was really nice. Like that was my, if I had 5 leads, I'm like, these are good. I can convert these all into a sale, 5 sales every month. That's a good one. Okay, near the bottom here, what change or skill do I need to work on this month in order to achieve my goals?
Yeah.
This is again like setting the intention. Yes.
Can I ask you one question before
You may.
Regarding the leads, let's say someone is saying, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of selling properties in the next 6 months, and he gives you this information, phone number, and email address.
Yeah.
Where do you put it?
What's your definition of a lead?
Qualified.
Can I put it in my database, those ones getting my newsletters or cards or those kind of things, just to keep in touch with that person?
Let's say this, you can do whatever you want. You have to have a plan and a process for how you deal with leads. And if your process is anybody that gives me their number, I put them in a database and I drip on them and I do all that, great. If your definition and your process is I get a lead, I pre-qualify them, I make sure that they're 100% motivated and willing to work with me and everything, and if they're not going to buy a house in the next 5 days, I just put them in the trash. There's a number of different ways to deal with it, and anyone can work for different people. I had one that I followed, and let's save that for another conversation. But in general, like my definition of a lead was anybody who will buy a home, and I was a buyer's agent, so anybody who will buy a home in the next 7 days, if I find them the right house. They were 100% qualified, motivated, ready to go, ready to write an offer, but it wasn't like an investor who says, yeah, find me a good deal, find me something and I'll look at it. That was not a qualified, motivated lead. I would usually tell them, there's Realtor.ca, I can set you up on a campaign or a drip or whatever. If you ever see something that you'd like to see, call me and we'll go and write it.
And then my comment on that would just be, all the time and energy, and you have this big database of people that someday maybe, hopefully, possibly will call you. Why not just get down to it, pre-qualify them? Oh, you're not buying in 6 months? Okay, great. You have my name and number. When you're ready, call me about a month or two before, give me a call, and then we can talk at that time. How does that work for you? Great. That's it. I would get rid of it. I'd throw it away.
Well, conversely, if you said, may I call you next week? You said no, we're like next month, well, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're serious, they'd say, well, next week's
Right.
December, next month's fine.
Right.
They'll go on through it, but if
Yeah.
they're not willing to do it, it's like,
Done.
I come from an industry, I worked in advertising
Yeah.
sales for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I would have, now it's completely different, right?
A little different.
A little different, but I just dialogue, and if they said, call me in 6 months, I
Yeah.
cut it in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that guy says 6 months, and I'm calling him in 3 months, I don't, and this is with all due respect, you guys have maybe done this for 10 years.
Yeah.
For me, I can't I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on him,
Right.
but I'm gonna put a calendar reminder in to call him in 3 months. Because they're gonna be going to open houses, they're gonna be seeing Facebook pollution of Realtor ads, they're gonna be seeing all
And
that
if you wait till
stuff.
the 6 month, you're gonna call them and they're gonna say, yeah, we bought a house 3 months ago, right?
Exactly, so I cut everything in half. They say they're ready in the new year, I'm gonna call them in November.
And as
But-
long as you have a
right.
system, right?
Right,
But-
and I do, yeah.
Put them in your database and drip on them, you know, so you, and then when that appointment comes up, you gotta call them. And if you're not calling them, then why are you doing that in the first place?
100%.
What ended up happening with us, and
Yeah.
again, just our
I
story,
agree.
what ended up happening with us, because we started that way, is we were generating quite a bit of leads by doing prospecting, calling, and door knocking and everything else. So we were getting all these leads, and we'd get this, and we'd start going into the CRM, and we'd go, okay, that person I'm gonna call this day. So then the system would populate every day, the people that you have to call. But that became very overwhelming. And then you kind of like, well, that day I didn't get to these people, so then you bump them to the next day, and then it starts to accumulate. And we ended up with this, mentally it was just exhausting. It was
Right.
exhausting to try and call these
Like,
people,
I don't
remember
wanna
what we
go.
talked about and everything else. So we talked to our coach, and that's when we got the advice of kind of really tightening that up. Yes, there's the odd person who is like, I'm moving here in December.
Right.
So I can't do anything right now, but I am moving here in December. Those were, okay, I'm going to call you, right? And we're going to work
Yeah.
together, but I'm going to keep hounding you until December when you actually move here, right? So, yeah,
I
there's,
agree, it's a good way to do it as long as you do it.
that's why I say like there's no right way necessarily to do this. That's a great way. I think that works really well.
I was just gonna say, what I found sometimes is they'll say in 6 months, because you talk to them, you got them excited, they do 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you just listed that house.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me a few times.
Right.
Because I didn't.
Yeah. So,
I often ask people this question. They would say, well, yeah, probably in 6 months or so. Oh, what's important about 6 months from now? And they would say, if they had like well, in 6 months, our daughter's moving out, and then we'll be empty nesters, and then we're really excited about finding a home. Then they had a defined reason. But if it was like 6 months, I don't know, we've just been talking about it, and kind of like that. Well, is there any chance you would want to move sooner? And then I would get into the dialogue. Well, that's
And
great.
sometimes also it's 11 to 6 months, it takes about 3 months by the time you start to the time you get in.
yeah,
So maybe you want to start now because if you have that goal.
Yeah.
People, I'm amazed at how many people can do just go out and
And
say
move.
your house. I'm like,
right.
no.
Did you know
Doesn't work that way.
that? Did you know it could take 3 to 6 months to get your home sold? Really?
Or 3 to 6 months.
So would you like to be
on the
sold
market
in
that
6
you're gonna
months?
like.
Would you like to be sold in 6 months, or would you like to start selling in 6 months? And they, actually, I'd be sold in 6 months. Great, we need to start now.
So take
So
your
like,
time.
wait for the prices to go up, so you wanna buy for more
Right,
and sell
Right.
for more.
Yeah.
Or right now.
do you want to do it right now? And for me, because of my personality style, which is not everybody, but I just knew if my goal was 50, I only needed to find 50 people that wanted to sell their house. Like, so this is not a monumental task. This is only 50 people. So why would I have 3,000 people in a database when this year all I need is 50? So,
And on the advice of you guys, I've been going through college,
yeah.
and it's been actually very freeing, and
Feels
I'm
good.
going to give it some more this week. And I hope some of them call me, Joe, where are my emails? And I'm like, well, every time I try to call you, you never pick up the phone.
Right.
So I'm assuming by you not picking up the phone, you're not interested in buying a home.
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, great. We
Yeah.
get the process started next week.
Because they know you're calling, right?
Yeah.
They know.
I've gone out with these people. And then they
Right.
just disappear off the face of the
Disappear.
earth. So.
Yeah.
People ghost you, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, I say to the guy, do you wanna go see the house? Yes, I wanna go see the house, but you didn't answer when. When are you available? I can set up a showing,
Yeah.
when are you available? They fail to answer that question repeatedly. And it's like,
I always say to people, I'm available this afternoon and this morning. And
Well,
then
actually-
you're saying you're busy, which you are, if you're doing everything you're supposed to.
well, I set up the Calendly
Just one
app
more, Curtis.
in my email.
Unless you want to go on the
That's
utility.
Calendly set up, so you actually go to a link, click on it, it shows when I'm available, so pick a time I'm available, and time slot, just book me.
Yeah.
And just, I'm in.
I don't do that, I seem to like to see it Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never actually had people use the Calendly app, which is.
Yeah, it might be a little confusing for them, but it's.
So the next step is going to be breaking it down into your ideal schedule, your daily schedule. And I've left this blank, and what I recommend is that you go through this. I like to write my schedule as my business schedule. Simone likes to put in her personal stuff in here as well, but I like to kind of just have this as my business schedule. So I start whenever my office start time, my work start time is. So the first step for me was always, what time am I gonna plan every day to be at my desk or at my office or wherever you're gonna be working, right?
And mine would
Ready to go.
start the moment I wake up, and I'd have 15 minutes, and I'd literally write, again, different personalities, right? I'd write water, brush teeth, get dressed, so that'd be 15 minutes, right? And then it was,
Wow.
so 15-minute increments, more or less, and it wasn't the whole day broken down, and then I highlighted all my personal stuff in pink, and everything else in green, because that's the color of money, right? And then all my work stuff would be in green.
So you've got a blank slate here, write down, you might even say, wake up at whatever, 7 o'clock, if you want. Everybody knows what time I wake up. 7 o'clock, and you want from 7 to 8 is going to be your morning routine or whatever you want to do. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm going to start working, or at 9 o'clock, I'm going to start working. Whatever time it is, you're going to put that there. And then you can break this up into half-hour increments, or I just left it blank, so you can kind of break this up however you like. I would always put, say, from 9 till 12 is going to be prospecting or lead gen. So I'm going to spend that's my 3 hours. Always do the most important things in the morning, because that is when you're fresh and you're more likely to actually follow through with things. Everything else goes into the afternoon, okay? If you want an example, I pulled up, Simone doesn't know this, but I pulled up, this is Simone's old ideal daily routine. This is her version of her calendar. She also had one like this. But this was a document that she created to say, this is what my ideal day looks like. And she was up at 4:30 in the morning doing morning stuff. But at 7:30, she was in the office ready to go, starting the day. She's looking at us going, oh, look at this.
So this is actually, a lot of this language was what my assistant and I used to, so my assistant would come and take my cell phone when I started prospecting, because I didn't prospect on my cell phone, I prospected I had a landline. That's so I didn't get distracted on my cell phone. So she would, anyway, so this is kind of a little bit of her.
Yeah, so she would have, at 7:30, she would start with her pre-prospecting routine.
Right?
And her pre-prospecting routine was another document. So that was, before I get prospecting, here's what I do. I rehearse my scripts, maybe I do a quick role play with someone, and I breathe, maybe I get pumped up, I turn on the music, and I get ready. And right when 8 o'clock starts, role play and practice, prospecting starts at 8:30. So at 8:30, our assistant would take Simone's cell phone, not allowed to touch this, no email, no distractions, no social media, no nothing, right? She would have all the scripts that were used for her prospecting that day on her desk. She would have any expired listings that she was going to talk to. She would have everything ready in our dialer. 10 o'clock, she'd take a break, and at 11 o'clock, and 10 o'clock is like a 15-minute break.
15 minutes.
10, 15-minute break, mindset breaks. Like shake it off, back at it.
Go to the washroom.
11 o'clock, so now this is 2.5 hours later. Now she goes and talks to her assistant, and her assistant says, well, you had like 8 missed calls while you were gone, and this is happening and that's happening, and so you get this like dialogue of what's been going on in the world. If you don't have an assistant.
So can I make a point? When you're prospecting, you are making outbound communication only. So if someone calls me during my prospecting, say they call me back, I don't take that call until after. That would be lead follow-up time. Because the moment you go and take an inbound call, you are like you're off prospecting. You're not, even though that's someone that called you, they're still going to take your call an hour later.
Yeah, so it's a one-way street. If you don't have an assistant, then this might be the time when you take your phone off do not disturb or whatever, maybe airplane mode or something like that. If you find that you're super distracted with your phone and you're taking calls and you're looking at messages and everything, maybe you need to have a separate cell phone, or maybe you need to have a landline, if you don't know what that is. But maybe you need to have another device that you use to communicate and phone out from, because everybody understands that could be one of the challenge solution things is I get distracted on my phone all day. So maybe you need to use another phone, or take a SIM card out of one phone and put it into the other phone, so you're only paying for one cell phone plan, right? You put it into the other phone and that doesn't have anything else on it other than the ability to dial. Some ideas, okay? There's a solution for every problem out there. So that was kind of Simone's schedule, and then in the afternoon it was prepare for appointments, CMAs, etc. And then her actual appointment time was 2 o'clock. And if she had no appointment, there's going to be more calling or door knocking.
And the great thing about this schedule is that this is what allows me to work for 4.5 days in a week. So it looks like a lot of work,
Prospecting.
but I was only working 4.5 days. But I was working. And it was like, it's like, you know, when you go to the doctor, they just go from one room to the other and they do the appointment, then they go to the next room and they go and serve that. That's all I did. I just went from what my schedule was. I was like a doctor and I got paid more than a doctor. So if you work, it works. Yeah, Mitsu?
Yeah, go ahead.
I recently created this similar kind of schedule. The biggest challenge I have is following, especially moment when the prospecting time is coming.
Yeah.
I get distracted so hard to get back myself together.
So identify what's distracting you. You know, you might even have like a distraction list that you keep beside you, and you can go, aha, I had somebody walk in, or hey, I had this happen, or something, what happened? Distraction list. And you write it down, so you identify what was distracting you, and then there's a solution for every one of those. Like I said, I just came up with that whole cell phone idea, but buy a Kijiji iPhone for like $100, a cheap one, because it doesn't have to be that good. Take your SIM card out, put it in there, and dial from that. And put your other phone in another room.
Whoever your internet provider is, like Rogers gives me a free landline phone, right?
Right.
It costs me nothing. It's just
Right.
sitting there. I never use it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cheryl?
So in my old lead gen system, they actually had a dialer in there. So
Yes.
I don't know, so you could actually
Maybe-
dial from your computer.
Maybe Core has a dialer too.
Okay, so is it something where you dial that particular lead?
Yes.
Directly
Yes.
from
The
the
way KB
system?
Core works is it calls you and then it calls the lead. And the nice thing is it actually logs the call too.
But what I'm asking is, can you dial that person?
Yes.
Yes.
You can dial that person from
Okay,
a
so that's
lot of
all.
those apps. That solves that. However, as I do with when I've got my computer in front of me, it's got an internet browser, it's got my email program, all of that, and an email will come in, and it'll say, Pablo, we're thinking of backing out of the deal on 123 Elm Street. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, I got a deal. Okay, I got to pick up the phone right away. What's going on, you guys? You know, come on, let's buy it. I need to close on my house next week.
Well, I need to pay
You
my
know,
credit
I
card.
need to pay my credit card bill. You need to buy that one. So it takes you off your game. So if I had my computer, or Simone had her computer up with a dialing program, her internet program would be turned off, her web browsers would be turned off. We would take away like all the shortcuts and icons and everything like that would all be taken away. So there was just that screen. And you have to have that discipline then not to go and browse and look at other things, right? So close everything else
The
off.
other thing I used to do was tape $20 bills outside my door of my office, and I had a glass door, and anytime Priscilla would see me off track, she would just take one of the $20 bills off the, so that's the door, here's my computer, and she could see my computer through the door. I'm working with my headset on, I'm working, and all she has to do is see that I'm on.
All of a sudden, Simone's on her phone texting somebody. Rip.
Oh, she didn't just watch it, you just kept feeding herself.
Oh, yeah.
So you see, so what you have, which a lot of people don't have, was an accountability partner.
Right.
So what do you do when you don't have?
So,
Cheryl, to answer that question, it's a challenge, you create a solution. Everybody's got a different way. There's the funny thing about accountability is that almost everybody wants it. In order to grow, everybody wants accountability, but somebody has to initiate it and go and get it. So I'll bet in this room there's another person that would also want accountability to follow a schedule, say like Nitsu, or to remain on track with something else. There's all kinds of people that want accountability. So it just takes going out and getting it. You could go on Facebook, on the Realtor group on Facebook, and
John
say,
Sy has this prospecting group.
I'm looking for accountability for this.
So you're all sitting there in front of your computer on a Zoom call.
Yep.
And that way they can see you and you can see them and everybody sees each other. Or as Nitsu does, he wanted accountability for being in the office at what time?
7:30.
7:30, he wanted to be in the office every day. Okay, call him crazy, but that's what he wanted. And he says, Simone, would you hold me accountable? Simone says, sure. Every day he texts a picture, a selfie of him at the office, wearing whatever nice suit he's wearing that day.
Good dresser.
A good dresser. And every day we get a picture at 7:30, except for one day at 7:32. There's the picture of Nitsu, and Simone says, it's 7:32. You failed today, or something, I don't know. She said something nicer.
I got a strong text.
I said, you're late.
You're late. It's like, yeah, but it was just 2 minutes. Yeah, but you said 7:30. So do you want me to hold you accountable or not, right?
Oh, but there's traffic. You're late. So
Should
So
I-
I pulled over to do role playing with the role playing partner. And he said, if you could have reached the office, you could do it from the office. It makes sense, right?
Right. Why are you role playing in the car while you're, right? You should be in the office role playing. Anyways.
So going back to that Zoom call, because I've actually thought about joining that, and then I think about how much is involved in actually starting through the process to getting everything in place. And so here it is, 10:30, we come and we sit in this room and we have all these different things that we want to partake of to grow.
Yeah.
So when you have those Zoom calls, do you make a commitment that every Monday to Friday that you're going to be there to call for 3 hours every single morning?
You decide what is going to work for you and you declare that to the group. So the group may know that you're not going to be there on Tuesdays, or the group may know that you're only going to prospect for 1 hour. So I was in a lot of accountability, prospecting accountabilities, and some of them would prospect for 5 hours. I'm like, well, I'm declaring 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
So, and everybody knew that, right? So, okay, let's keep rolling here.
Okay.
We're almost done.
So create a schedule that's going to work for you and that's based on your production goals. And I'm also going to bring up, this was a typical schedule that Simone had for the week. So sometimes you can write out your daily schedule, and what I put at the bottom of the daily schedule is weekly tasks. So if you want to make it simple, this is a good way to do it. So I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do, say, 3 hours of prospecting, and in a productive agent's schedule, there's probably going to be some common elements. And I'll go over some of the common elements with you. There's going to be some sort of like morning routine in there. There's going to be lead generation time or prospecting. There's going to be lead follow-up time. There's going to be appointments and negotiating contracts. It got to a point in 2014 where I was so busy. Remember, I was working with buyers and I did 56 buyer sales that year. That was like my craziest year. And I was telling my coach, I don't have time for anything. I don't have time. He says, well, when do you negotiate your contracts? I said, well, when they come in. Like, they come in and I just negotiate them usually through the day and kind of get it done. He goes, well, set in your calendar from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock is negotiating contracts. I went, okay, why? He said, like, this is what a good coach does, and they make you think outside the box. And he said, you're gonna present all your offers in person and negotiate them in person, every single one from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and you're gonna get it done in that hour. I'm like, whoa. So I tried this. I gotta say, it didn't work out, but this is the things that you start to try to maximize your time and your efficiency.
Always in person with your clients on the phone with the other realtor.
And that's what it was. He said, if you can, I want you to get the other agent on the phone and you and your agent together and go, okay, my client says this. What does your client say? Well, my client says they need to think about it. What do they need to think about? We're here. Let's get this deal done. It's like old school. Let's get in a room, in the closing room, and let's figure this out, right?
You really want to freak them out? You sit outside their house,
Yeah.
your clients in the car.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go.
And these are not going to connect with that. I'm like, well, we need to close this today, or what?
Yeah. That's right.
That's
Get this
really-
done.
Yeah, well, they want to leave town.
Did you ever try that? And how did the other agents respond for that? Most agents.
Yeah.
They're not
Well,
used to it.
Calgary agents are lazier than most in the industry. Like I'm learning now because now we're dealing with agents all over and different markets. And one of the there's no other market where they verbally negotiate back and forth until they actually get to every contract. I verbally negotiate back and forth, even though we all know nothing's satisfied until in writing. But we verbally negotiate back and forth until we get a pricing terms that everybody agrees to, and then we sign it after that. And every other market, it's like written counters, every single one written counters back and forth. Probably better, right?
Okay, so this, we can move on, but you can see how granular I got, right? So I would know I'm gonna call 6 to 10 past clients and center of influence. Once I talk to 6, like they said hello, I'd move on and call 5 to 10 builders, and then I'd call 3 to 5, oh, you didn't see that? Then 5 to 10 for sale by owners, because you're not allowed to call expired.
Well, no, I know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna skip that, I didn't do that ever.
No,
And then 20 to 30 just listed, just sold.
dead people. We call dead people.
But you can
You're
call
expired.
a street of houses.
That's what I did. I
And
would
it just happened to be that there were 3
Yeah.
expired on that street.
And usually my expireds would be people that I rejected listings from that listed with someone else. And then I would track, like I have a list of homes that I'm tracking right now. And I actually have a contact with that person from the past. So because maybe even I had phone calls or whatever, and then they're likely to list with me next.
Have you ever found it interesting that a lot of the expired listings get listed by the same agents over and over?
Okay, let's move on to,
Okay.
yeah, so that's it, team meeting, working with sellers.
So the schedule is really what puts you on track. And this is what takes, this is business planning 101. And I know we had to fly through and we're going to kind of wrap it up, but this is really what gets you from amateur to pro. And I'll have to say this because I've said this a couple of times, but the more I see agents, the more I've seen agents grow in the last 10 years, and we've been in coaching and training and talked to thousands of agents throughout the world. It is 100% legitimate that every agent can be a total top producing agent. This is not something you're born into or you have a natural gift for. This is a practiced, learned skill like anybody else. Now, just like, say, being an athlete, if you think you're going to be the top Olympian, you may not be, you may not be the 300-400 deal per year person, but to get to 80 transactions a year, which is a good life for any agent, any single agent can do that for sure. If you start following this,
right?
If you want it.
Yeah. So any questions, any other thoughts, any sharing, things that got triggered? Yep. Because you're chomping on the oranges? Oh, he doesn't have anything to share.
I have to say this one.
Good, I'm glad you like it.
Thank you.
We do a lot of this.
I have to say this because I'm sitting and watching everything, and this is my 4th weekend. Quite frankly, it's overwhelming. And I've said this to a good friend of mine who hopefully will join me in this journey. I feel like I'm not worthy, so I really appreciate your last statement, because you feel like, I can't get there, I can't do that. And you have to counsel yourself and tell yourself that you can.
Yeah. So let me share with you my story. So Donna Rooney from Calgary was the one that introduced us to coaching. And Pablo and I scraped enough money together to catch a flight down to San Diego. We didn't have any money for food, but we went to the grocery store, which worked out fine. But I was sitting towards the back of this big conference room. There's 3,000 people, and there was all these people at the front, and the top producers were on the stage. And I just sat there going, like, I was starstruck. Like, I just got hit.
It was a weird combination of being in awe and being super excited at the same time. I remember like also thinking, yeah, I want to be there, right?
So for me, the way my brain works is when I look at that, I think I'm automatic yes. That's just how I roll in life. I'm like, I can do that. But meanwhile, I didn't have enough for restaurants, right? But I'm like, I got that. That's for sure where we're going to be. So what I would say to what you just said is, the moment you go to the negative, that's exactly where you're going to head. So when you look at Pablo and I, this took us years to work through.
Yeah.
It doesn't
happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight. You should have seen us. We were like, we have like clawed ourselves to this point. But hopefully what we're hoping to do is that you won't have to spend as much time for yourself, because we want to catapult you right to where you need to be.
Well, like you said about Donna and Gary, who a lot of you will know Donna Rooney and Gary Cronin here in the market. Tremendously, like absolutely without a doubt, the #1 producers in the city for commissions and volume. And we were talking to them at that Superstar retreat, as you kind of alluded to, and they mentioned, you know, they're doing like $2, $3, $4 million a year in commissions, which is just like, most of us can't even fathom this. And they said, yeah, like our first time we came here, we went to the grocery store, got sandwiches, we couldn't afford lunch, everybody's out having lunch. Same story.
Yeah,
they were the exact same story, right? And so everybody starts from a certain place. Yeah. And it's often hard to see where you could get to, but it's that.
It is about so much of what we've heard, and so don't get me wrong, I don't live in the negative. I get up every day and I think I can, but sometimes when you look at this in the starstruck thing and the accomplishments, you go, oh, okay, I'm going up again tomorrow, and I'm going to try again tomorrow. So I believe it is in the mindset.
And I would say, like, the baby steps, like Dave Ramsey, if you've ever read Total Money Maker, but he talks about the baby steps to get to anywhere. And if you try to just go, you have to go through the baby step process. So that's why we're not doing eventually that would be another step of this is, what's your 2020 plan, and what's your 5-year plan, and what's your 10-year plan? For all of us sitting here, like, I'm just looking at our ages, I hope that none of us are doing this in 10 years. Like, we shouldn't be. So we should be planning for 10 years from now and make sure that we are not doing this, right?
Hey, Kaylin, I see that you're still on the web call there. Nice, thank you for joining us. We're going to end the web call now, and we're really just going to talk amongst ourselves. So thanks for joining us. Bye.
So yeah, that's it's overwhelming.